A family's dream home became a prison when an ancient entity emerged from the walls demanding recognition and worship. The farmhouse stands at the end of a long gravel driveway in Burrillville, Rhode Island, surrounded by dense woodland that seems to press in from all sides. Built in 1736, the structure has weathered centuries of New England storms, its clapboard exterior painted a faded white that glows pale in the moonlight. The property spans over 200 acres of rolling hills and overgrown fields, isolated from the nearest neighbors by miles of forest. In January 1971, the Perron family, Roger and Carolyn, along with their 5 daughters Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, arrives at this remote location with hope and excitement. They have purchased the old Arnold estate for what seems like an impossibly good price, unaware that the house's affordability comes with a terrible cost. The first day unfolds with the ordinary chaos of moving. Boxes pile up in rooms that smell of old wood and dust. The girls race through the corridors, claiming bedrooms and exploring closets. Carolyn begins unpacking the kitchen while Roger surveys the property, already planning repairs and improvements. As evening falls, the family gathers for their first dinner in the new home, exhausted but satisfied. They have no way of knowing that they are not alone, that they have moved into a dwelling occupied by forces that have claimed this land as their own for generations. The phenomena begins almost immediately, though the family initially dismisses the signs. Doors that the parents close stand open minutes later. Footsteps echo through empty hallways in the dead of night. The children report seeing a woman in the bedroom doorways, watching them sleep. Items vanish from one location and reappear in another. The temperature in certain rooms drops without explanation, creating pockets of bitter cold even in the warmth of summer. Carolyn discovers brooms that have been carefully stacked in the center of the kitchen floor each morning, arranged in a pattern she cannot explain. The family's German Shepherd refuses to enter certain parts of the house, cowering and whimpering when encouraged to cross specific thresholds. As weeks turn to months, the activity intensifies. The girls wake to find themselves levitating above their beds, held suspended by invisible hands before being dropped back onto the mattresses. Carolyn begins experiencing the most violent encounters. She feels something grabbing her ankles at night, dragging her across the floor. Bruises appear on her body in the shape of handprints and finger marks, evidence of assaults that occur both during sleep and in waking hours. The smell of rotting flesh pervades the house at irregular intervals, so overpowering that the family gags and covers their faces. Voices whisper in the darkness, speaking words in languages the parents cannot identify. The entity that manifests most frequently appears as a woman in her 50s, her neck grotesquely twisted to one side, her eyes filled with malevolence. Roger remains skeptical at first, attributing the events to old house sounds and overactive imaginations. But even he cannot deny the reality when objects begin flying across rooms in his presence, when his tools disappear from his hands and materialize in locked spaces, when he too sees the apparitions that haunt his daughters. The family realizes they are trapped. With 5 children and limited financial resources, selling the property and relocating proves impossible. They have invested everything into this house. They must find a way to survive its occupants. The parents research the history of their property and uncover a legacy of tragedy stretching back centuries. The land has witnessed multiple instances of individuals who have perished under suspicious or violent circumstances. Children have passed away from unexplained causes. Residents have met their end through apparent self-inflicted wounds, though questions linger about whether external forces might have influenced these final acts. One former inhabitant was rumored to have practiced occult rituals on the property, attempting to commune with forces beyond human understanding. Another woman, Bathsheba Sherman, who lived on the land in the 19th century, stands out in local legend. Accused during her lifetime of practicing dark arts and suspected of causing harm to children in her care, Bathsheba allegedly perished by her own hand in 1885, cursing all who would dare occupy her land. The family endures this nightmare for nearly a decade, learning which rooms to avoid, which hours bring the most activity, how to protect themselves with prayer and determination. Carolyn seeks help from local clergy, but many refuse to become involved once they understand the nature of what inhabits the farmhouse. Those who do attempt blessings find their efforts ineffective against forces too entrenched and too powerful to be easily displaced. In 1973, investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren receive word of the Perron family's situation. The couple has built a reputation for their work with paranormal cases, approaching such matters with a combination of religious faith and investigative methodology. When they arrive at the farmhouse, Lorraine, who claims clairvoyant abilities, immediately senses the oppressive atmosphere. She identifies multiple entities occupying the property, but one presence dominates all others, a malevolent female spirit who views the house and land as her eternal domain. Lorraine explains that this entity, likely the spirit of Bathsheba Sherman, has been reinforced by the negative energy of centuries of suffering on this land. The spirit does not haunt the property as a lost soul seeking peace. Rather, it claims ownership and views all living occupants as invaders to be tormented and driven out. Ed and Lorraine document the phenomena through interviews with each family member and overnight observation sessions. They record temperature anomalies, capture photographic evidence of unexplained manifestations, and witness firsthand the violent nature of the primary entity. Lorraine warns that attempting a full exorcism or cleansing might provoke the spirit to even more dangerous behavior, potentially putting the family at greater risk. The entity feeds on fear and attention, growing stronger with each acknowledgement of its presence. The Warrens recommend that the Perrons maintain their faith, establish protective rituals, and avoid provoking the spirits through investigation or confrontation. They explain that some locations become so saturated with negative energy over time that complete cleansing becomes nearly impossible without extraordinary measures. The family faces a choice: abandon their home and investment, or learn to coexist with forces that have occupied this land far longer than any living person. The Perrons remain in the house until 1980, enduring nearly a decade of relentless paranormal activity. When they finally move away, it is not because they have conquered the entities or found peace, but because their daughters have grown older and circumstances finally permit relocation. The family members carry the psychological scars of their experience for the rest of their lives, forever changed by what they encountered in that isolated Rhode Island farmhouse. The old Arnold estate continues to stand. Subsequent owners report varying degrees of unusual activity, though none stay long enough to experience the full intensity of what the Perrons endured. The case becomes one of the most extensively documented in paranormal investigation history, recorded in the Warrens' case files and later adapted into public accounts that bring the family's ordeal to wider attention. Andrea Perron, the eldest daughter, eventually writes a trilogy of books detailing the family's experiences, refusing to let the world forget what occurred in that house. She preserves the truth of their decade-long ordeal, ensuring that the entities that tormented her family cannot hide in obscurity. The case stands as a stark reminder that some places harbor intelligences that predate human habitation, forces that view our presence not with fear, but with possessive rage. The farmhouse in Burrillville represents a location where the boundary between the living and the dead has worn dangerously thin, where the past refuses to remain buried, and where an inhuman presence continues to maintain its dark vigil over land it will never willingly surrender. The investigation conducted by the Warrens establishes protocols that influence their future cases, demonstrating that not all hauntings can be resolved through conventional means, and that sometimes survival requires acceptance of realities that defy comfortable explanation. This story was created with AI assistance based on documented case files. All events reference real investigations and reported incidents.